This episode is brought to you by Amazon Prime. There's nothing sweeter than baking cookies during the holidays. With Prime, I get all my ingredients delivered right to my door, fast and free, no last-minute store trips needed. And of course, I blast my favorite holiday playlist on Amazon Music. It's the ultimate soundtrack for creating unforgettable memories. From streaming to shopping, it's on Prime. Visit Amazon.com/Prime to get more out of whatever you're into.
Oh.
Welcome to the Supreme Resort, Landview World, a podcast. I have to do it in this nice, pleasant voice with this music. Hi there. Welcome to the Supreme Resort, Landview World, a podcast about Disneyland and Walt Disney World, in which the Supreme Resort. Each episode, we're gonna discuss and explore. If you actually
totally
talk like this, I'm sorry, and I'm not making fun of you. No, but seriously, serious talk, kids. Each episode, we will discuss and explore each resort, ride by ride, land by land, park by park, year by year, to determine which is better, Disneyland or Walt Disney World. I'm Dan, and thank you for joining me on this quest to help the greater good of humanity answer that very long, elusive question that I said just moments ago. Joining me, as always, from Scraping the Vault, we have Jimmy.
Hi.
And howdy, y'all. Yeah.
Hi, y'all. I have a hot take. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay.
I'll hot take
And from
it.
the hit podcast, Bowie-splaining, say howdy to Erik.
Howdy. I live on a mountain.
Do you have a Hill Houser clip ready?
Let me find it.
Guys, while he's finding, I want to give my hot take.
Mm-hmm.
We went to Disneyland on New Year's Eve.
Okay.
Awesome.
Now, in that special way that parents do, I think I messaged you guys that, the parents said they're going to take their kid to the water park and they go to the town center of their town where they have like a dancing fountain and they put their kids in a swimsuit and let them run around.
Yeah.
That's what we did. So we didn't go in the park because it was $1,000 for us to stand around with, tens of thousands of people. So instead we went to park at Downtown Disney to watch the fireworks. There were two fireworks shows, one at 9:00 Pacific, which is, midnight Eastern. Mm-hmm. And they had another one at midnight Pacific, which we did not do. But a couple of things I want to talk about with this is we parked at Downtown Disney. Now we got there around 8 p.m. Okay. My mother-in-law lives about 12 miles from Disneyland. It took us 20 minutes to get there, to get to the Disneyland Resort. And it took us another 20 minutes to get into the parking lot. Now, for those of you who know the Disneyland Resort, the Downtown Disney parking traditionally is near Downtown Disney. Kind of the entrance is over there where ESPN Zone and Rainforest Cafe were, right? We parked over on the other side of Pixar Pier Hotel. It took us a very long time to get into the parking lot. When we got there, they charged us $10 because that's how much Downtown Disney is now. It's $10 to park. And then you get 4 hours free if you validate at a restaurant or whatever else. This is New Year's Eve. You can imagine how many people are going here to watch their free fireworks to get their quote unquote water park admission.
Right.
And when we got to the turnstile, to the money taker, they were not charging. You do not need to validate. It was $10 to park for the rest of the night.
Huh.
And I was really taken aback by that. And maybe there was some reason
money off of that.
I know. That was the thing, is like, how are they making money off of this? My thought was like, well, maybe it's because there's so many people.
Did you really think that?
I really did. It's like, maybe there's so many people that people would get frustrated waiting in line to validate, that people just get really frustrated and complain or whatever. But no, they just charge $10 to park to get a free fireworks show, essentially. We got in, we waited through security, obviously. We got in there and we didn't wait in line for anything. There was no line for anything. We walked into Lego store, not a line. We waited in line for a churro, no line. Waited for a corn dog, no line. Waited to get a carameled apple, no line. There were maybe 200 people standing around to watch the fireworks.
wow. So everybody was
insane.
in the park.
Everybody was in the park. Why were they all parking at downtown Disney? Maybe they knew it was $10 to park and they saved their $50 or whatever. But
yeah, they probably got a heads up from somebody.
Anyway, the short version is we went in, watched the fireworks, got a corn dog, got a churro, got a carameled apple, walked through Grand Californian Hotel, walked around. We saw the new tower of DVC. The lobby, which I really enjoyed. We walked around Pixar Pier lobby, which, it's new. But we really had a nice time. Watched the fireworks. It was a good time.
That's nice. You call it a carameled apple.
Mm-hmm.
Huh?
That's Utah.
Caramel?
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Caramel?
I've never.
Caramel
it makes
dapple.
sense.
Caramel dapple. What I get is the white chocolate covered with cinnamon sugar dip, but they call it the apple pie, caramel apple.
That's a good one.
Caramel apple.
No, I don't call it caramel. I just call it a caramel apple.
Caramel apple.
Caramel dapple.
And
Anyway.
in Illinois, we had a brand called Affy Tapple.
I think that might be the only time I've heard any Utah in your speaking, Jimmy, is the caramel apple.
Yeah, it sneaks in there every once in a while.
It was carameled. It's fine.
It was carameled. It was an apple. It was carameled, just like
no, that makes sense.
chocolated.
That's funny. That's so interesting. I'm very fascinated by this because there's someone I have encountered recently who says video. And then I heard
Provost.
I heard Provost say
Utah.
video, and I was like,
Utah.
"Oh, that's a Utah thing." And then and I was trying to explain it to somebody, and Jimmy, here, let me explain Utah accent to you. It's not something you even think to hear until you hear one example of it, and then you'll hear every example of it for the rest of the time. It's really interesting.
Yeah, it's a real deliberate kind of accent where it's like, and most male, we have a lot of Utah listeners. I'm going to leave it alone.
That's fine.
Go fry sauce. Anyway,
so I say, just to be clear, I'm not making fun of it. I'm not saying it to be critical. It's just interesting to me.
It's just one of those things. Yeah.
By the way, listener, before I get back into it, if you haven't been able to tell yet, this is a sidebar episode. We're doing a year-end roundup because it's at some point Michael Eisner will say hello to the new year. Happy New Year, by the way.
Hello.
There it is. You got tips and tricks for 2024 if you are visiting the park, Disneyland specifically, for the first time since they reopened. I've been doing some thinking about that for the past couple of years. I finally have some ideas. I'm sure Jimmy and Eric also do. This is for Jason, who is going to be visiting right around the time that this episode gets released. We're also going to get into some Knott's Berry Farm talk, but Jimmy, get back to what you're doing. Oh, Jimmy froze in the most interesting way.
That was a great still.
So what I was going to say after all of that, which could be taken as praise and should be, I was standing in the Esplanade between Grand Californian and Disneyland, where all the magic began, looking over and seeing, other hotels and whatnot. And I thought to myself, I like Disney World better.
Oh.
Yes.
But you weren't in a park.
And maybe that's why. I guess it's the bubble. And I know that
you do really like the bubble.
I do like the bubble.
I enjoy a bubble as well.
I don't like it.
You don't like the bubble?
You don't
generally stay in the bubble.
True.
I have stayed in the bubble. I haven't gone to Disney World that much to have it be something that I expect. So, for example, when I stay, I think one of my current favorites is the Airs in Orange. It's like a 5-minute drive, but it's far. I mean, relatively far from Disneyland. It's not across the street at all. It is not walking distance.
No,
I like
everything
that.
is walking distance.
Well, yeah. I found myself really enjoying that. For me, it's. I know we've said this on the show before, but it's been a while. I like the idea of okay, now I'm going to go do my Disney thing. It's constant. I like it. I like it being something that it's like a sweet and sour thing. It's like, oh, now I get a little bit of this, now I get a little bit of that, and I get to step out of it, and I get to step back in. But again, I'm not saying either of you are wrong. That's just an experience.
And it's an opinion, and it's of the moment. So there's a couple things I want to elaborate on, and then we can move on. So there's a theme park in Denmark, in Copenhagen, which was in no small part an inspiration for Disneyland. It was Walt's sort of realization, this can really be a thing. The attention to detail, the lighting, the attention and focus on horticulture and all that kind of stuff. It is in like a couple city blocks in one of the most unique cities in the world. Disneyland is that now. It's just sort of a thing in a neighborhood. Mm-hmm. And when I walk the couple hundred yards past the buses towards Harbor Boulevard and I see 15 cast members with their name tags on and their uniform, it is just so antithetical to the reason Disney World exists.
Yeah.
And I don't like that part of it. I understand, Dan, to your point, where it's like, I can be in the real world, and then when I'm ready, I can just go do my thing and get immersed. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I don't like to be reminded of the real world because I'm an escapist, hence the copious amounts of alcohol I used to drink. Let me point that out. Anyway, so yeah, I was just taken aback for the first time, by the way, since we started this show. It was the first time that I stopped and I was like, I think I like Disney World better.
Wow. I mean, and the cast members used to have to change before
I was
left,
one of them.
Right?
I had to give their costume away. In fact, you'd get penalized if you took your costume out for that very reason, because you don't want to be seen outside of the bubble or whatever. Anyway, that's all. We can move on.
Well, and just I agree we can move on, but just last thing is that what was interesting is that when I have stayed at Disney World property, usually around day 2, I'm like, I can't take any more Disney shit. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I get it.
And so I need that. I'm like, oh no, it's because it's like, okay, now this is a rendition of Give a Little Whistle in this style of music. Now it's this, and now it's this, and I've heard Be Our Guest 15,000 different ways. Mm-hmm. It's like, I just need a reminder that real things exist. That's all I need.
I mean, having stayed the one time I stayed at the Grand Californian with a park view or it was a downtown Disney view. That music clicks on at 7 a.m. Mm-hmm. And if you're sitting out on the balcony having coffee, like I enjoy doing, you get that. You just get that blast of music all day long. And then all day long, you hear the tram coming by and beeping and people getting off. To be fair, Walt Disney World is different because you generally don't have that.
Mm-hmm. I understand what you're saying. I'm telling you that mentally it feels the same because it's kind of all... It's all the same stuff. It's like if you eat, 13 different Stouffer's entrees, it's like you can still taste the Stouffer's, I think psychically it does for me sort of like that experience. I don't know if you remember, Jimmy, but years ago when we traveled the South together, the second week we were just like, I need a vegetable now.
So a couple of things, Dan, and you'll forgive me, Dan, for the listener. Dan and I drove. It was with my then girlfriend, now wife. We were former guest of the show. We were driving down I-75 and we crossed over the Swanee River, the world famous Swanee River. And Dan and I both simultaneously, unprompted, unprovoked, unplanned, started singing as we got on the bridge. Mm-hmm. I'm riding on the Swanee River. And that was it. We stopped when we were off the bridge.
Yep.
I've been there 75 times since then. Every single time on the way to and from, I start singing and I stop the minute I'm off the bridge.
Yep.
And then the other thing, lastly,
what a special relationship you two have.
It's just, and I want to text him every time.
You can do the same thing.
Please do the same. So the other thing was we're watching on the Esplanade and we were kind of generally asking, are they going to play the music and dim the lights? And I'm like, well, we're in a thoroughfare between two theme parks. They're not going to turn the lights off.
I bet
and they're probably not going to play the music because they don't want to encourage people to, whatever. And ever so dimly did they, in fact, have an announcement from the gates of California Adventure behind us at this point that says, for our East Coast family at Disney World, and they counted down to the new year. We all counted down, kisses all around, and they played the music in the Esplanade for the fireworks, which I thought was a really nice touch that I did not expect.
Wow.
I don't know if they do that every night, but they did it that night, and it was a great, for $10. It was phenomenal, just a great experience.
I don't think they do that every. Well, the listener generally knows that I don't stick around for the fireworks. I'd rather hoof it when the fireworks. I either get onto multiple rides while the fireworks are happening, or hoof it back to Hearthstone Lounge or something, or Trader Sam's while the fireworks are going on because there's nobody else around. I've never heard. I've left during fireworks and I've never heard the music play.
Yeah, I think you're right. And Dan, I think he said they don't.
They don't.
The insider look at a cast member's vernacular, the fireworks show cast members called the Great Stoplight in the Sky, because if you want to get anywhere, do it during the fireworks, because everyone stops and they look up and you can get anywhere you want. All right, Dan, take it away.
That's when you're in your Frontierland garb and you just walk around Tomorrowland because nobody cares.
Exactly.
I can do it.
Do so many crimes. So speaking of crimes, Erik went to Knott's for the first time, and Jimmy, I think, went to Knott's, but I'm not sure. And I also went to Knott's with Erik. Not my first time because I'm cool.
But I have an annual pass at Knott's now.
Yeah, we both do. And Erik, what were your thoughts about?
Well,
Knott's
you and Tom were great hosts at Knott's. Hey, Tom, how you doing?
Tom Morrow?
No, not Tom Morrow.
Oh, okay.
Tom Day.
Well, yes. Oh my goodness. You and Tom were great hosts, showing me through the park. We started out the day. Took a while. We started the day basically at rope drop, and Dan said,
"We did." That's right.
Dan's like, "Hey, we should go on Ghost Rider now because it'll be the shortest wait of the entire day." It was an hour and a half standing in line behind a bunch of teens. It really set the tone for the day.
Yeah,
I was happy that that we didn't spend the entire day with teens.
No, we tried, but they were like, "You guys are old. We're not going to hang out."
Yeah,
with you."
please stop following us around. We're like, all right,
but you're cool.
I was shocked at. We'll just start out here at Ghost Rider. I was shocked at how inefficient Knott's is.
It sure is.
My goodness, if you look at something like Space Mountain, where they're debarking folks and putting new people into the ride vehicle within 30 seconds.
Or the thing breaks down.
Yeah, because they've got 5 or 6 cars going at the same time. Ghost Rider has 2 trains going at the same time. And it's because they're cubbies, so you get to walk over the ride vehicle, walk off to the side, put your backpack into a cubby, walk back to the ride vehicle, get into the ride vehicle again, put on a seat belt, and then have a cast member shove a bar over your gut.
If you're lucky, it takes extra time for them to do that.
And they have no problem doing it.
They just give me. Oh
she
yeah,
and
then she took her jacket off and she just gave me a look like it's go time. This is happening.
So to that end, guys, as we were in Southern California prior to the New Year's weekend, and we were looking at Disneyland. It was $1,000 for the 4 of us to go, and then we looked at the entertainment book. Remember that still exists. Mm-hmm. We were able to go, the 4 of us, for $240
to Knott's.
Okay,
rather
than $1,000. No. So, well, Legoland probably cheaper. But anyway, so we're looking at the wait times leading up to our trip. And we're looking at Knott's Berry Farm. And we're like, okay, 3 hours for that ride.
Mm-hmm.
And then we look over at Disneyland and it's 45 minutes for Space Mountain. We're like, well, wait a minute. So 2 theories. Theory 1, it's $1,000 to go to Disneyland. So less people are going there than are going to Knott's Berry Farm. Theory 2, Knott's Berry Farm is so incredibly inefficient that you can have less people paying less money and spending more time because of the inefficiencies of the ride. So we're sitting ready to go for Friday before New Year's. It was $60 a person with the entertainment book. And we're sitting at dinner at the Five Crowns in Corona Del Mar. It's a Lowry's primary restaurant. I'm sitting there. My kids have been sick. One of them has been sick since November.
Oh.
My wife on and off sick. My 10-year-old on and off sick. And I sit there at dinner. I'm like, I made it through. Didn't get sick. The next morning,
oh no,
you all know how it went. We did not go to Knott's Berry Farm.
You missed out. You missed
Anyway,
out so much.
I know the suspense of the listener, so I'll let you continue.
My goodness.
And I'm not gonna lie, the whole time I was thinking, he's gonna hate this.
I love to theme it. I love a themed entertainment venue. I would have loved it. The kids probably not. The wife would have complained. The last time I went was for the Boysenberry Festival. We didn't do anything except the Boysenberry shooter ride. Mm-hmm. That's all we did.
That's all you need to do.
Well, there you go. Anyway, continue, Eric. You went on Ghost Rider. It took an hour and a half because there are 2 trains.
Right. My goodness. And yeah, we're in this like barn of a line underneath the loading platform, and there's a Mariah Carey music video playing and ads for Coke. I'm like, this is
the ads for Coke.
This is barely themed, and
it's
this
a
is
barn.
I'm like feet inside the park, and this is the first thing that we do. And Tom joined us in line. Tom came a half an hour after us and joined us in the line partway through. And then toughed it out for the rest of the ride. We were standing so long that when I started walking up the stairs to the second level where there was more line, thankfully,
not as much as there could have been.
Not as much as there could have been. Like my knee buckled as I was walking up the stairs. I'm like, oh no, I've been standing still for too long.
I was delighted by when we had the idea that Tom could join us in line. All 3 of us at some point, we're in that like Disney good boy mode of like, I don't know if we can do that. We should talk to somebody. Meanwhile, people are just walking through the line. Excuse me.
Yeah, families were walking through the line. Grandma's walking
unapologetically through. Not we're meeting up with our family, but we're just going.
It's just normal. I mean, that's the thing. Like, I mean, you say not apologetically, and it's true, but it's because it's normal, and it's again, it's like I'm not trying to be critical about it. That's just how it is when you go there. It's just like, oh yeah, I'm my party's up there, and to be fair, the party is eventually up there.
Oh, yes. Yeah. And
so is this the same Tom that we know and love?
Yeah.
Founder of the Court is Adjourned?
Yes, that okay. Tom.
Hi, Tom. Yeah. Thanks for joining us.
It was a great day with Tom and Dan. So the ride itself was the wildest
ride in the wilderness?
Not the wildest ride in the wilderness. No, because
wildest ride in the Knott's Berry Farm parking lot.
Yeah. Basically, it was over a parking lot. You can see the sets from Knott's Scary Farm. You can see behind the scenes of everything. It's Six Flags, but that like a wooden roller coaster that's on a regular track. It was the most intense wooden roller coaster I've ever been on. It was crazy. And as I was discussing with Dan, like there's a point where it banks the wrong way.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just holding on to this.
What does that even mean?
You're turning right, but the cart is leaning left.
Oh.
And you're going,
interesting.
This is not, nothing's holding on to this car. This is not a tubular steel roller coaster where you feel like the car can't leave. it feels like it's going to, and it's not going to actually go off the rails.
Well,
but
do you know that?
You're right. You're right. I don't. And we were in the front row, which was great. It was fabulous. We really only went on, I think we only went on 3 rides during the day, right, Dan?
Was that
3?
Sorry.
3.
We went on 3 rides.
Because everywhere on the app, it said that the wait was 1 hour.
I think we went on 2.
No, because we did the sky thing.
How long were you there?
About 6 hours.
Yeah.
6 hours, and you went on 2 rides?
3. Ghost Rider, the sky thing, the slow moving, rotating view of Buena Park.
And the boysenberry shooter.
We did Calico Mine Train. No, the boysenberry kept going down.
Yeah.
We got in that line twice, and both times it was
What did you do the rest of the 5 hours?
We walked around.
Yeah, we took in the sights and sounds. We learned about
show.
Yes, we saw. That's right. We saw a show. We learned about so many things from the Knott's Berry Farm Answer Man.
Oh gosh, that museum. That guy was. You were right, Dan. He was ready. He was ready to tell us about everything. He cranked up that old music box and talked about everything else he could touch. That was great. We talked to Sad-Eye Joe in prison. That's a thing that you can't do at Disneyland. You can't talk to a non-moving. You can't talk to a statue at Disneyland.
We felt the heartbeat on the grave.
You can talk to it. Yeah,
you can talk to the partner statue. I usually say hi to Walt.
Well, you say a prayer, obviously.
Right.
Lay a candle.
Yep. Can you imagine? We should start that.
Put a candle in front of the
little vigil.
How quickly would they take the candle down?
I mean, seconds.
Sir, why do you have a candle in your backpack? It's not religious. It's fine.
Oh my God. Just a prayer rug. Like the 3 of us show up in front of the partner statue. We get prayer rugs.
We
get candles. I'll bring my new Lego set with my Lego Walt Disney.
There you go.
Oh man. I want to.
So yeah. I guess the point is we have annual passes. Eric knows what's cool, and Jimmy doesn't.
There we go.
All right. So
to be fair to the listener, if you have not ever gone to Knott's, and this being my first time, I was amazed because Dan's like, you probably want to get an annual pass. Mm-hmm. And I don't know. I'm probably only going to go the one time. When I was trying to buy a 1-day ticket, a little flag popped up that said, do you plan on coming a second time this year? Get an annual pass. It's only $20 more. And it
today,
was.
Behind the curtain today is January 7th, 2024. Let's moment in time. How many times in the next 365 days will Eric go to Knott's Berry Farm?
2 more.
I say 0. I say 0.
You sure?
I think at least 1.
I didn't say I'm sure. I'm just betting.
Okay.
I think at least 1 because Terrence wants to go to Knott's with us.
Yes.
Okay. Famously, never mind. I love you, Terrence.
Famously, Terrence wants to go to Knott's with us.
That's what I meant to say. All right. Well, so what's the verdict, Eric? Are you going to go back to Knott's Berry Farm?
I will go back to Knott's Berry Farm, and I might even go on another ride. Calico Mine Train, by the way.
Oh,
weirdest thing. Just again,
it is weird.
It's a bunch of statues going at you.
Now,
and I think
have we spoken about the relevance to the? Sorry, Dan, real quick. If we to the listener, have we mentioned the relevance of the Calico Mine Train queue as it relates to Disneyland?
At some point. I'm almost certain it's come up at some point.
All right, never mind then.
Well, I mean,
go for it because I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Walter Disney and Walter Knott, buddies. Walt Disney went to Knott's Berry Farm, saw the queue for Calico Mine Train. He's like, "Oh, there's no line on that ride. Let's go there." And then he turns the corner, and all of a sudden, all those people are there. From that point on, all queues at Disneyland were somewhat discreetly themed or disguised in some way.
Yeah.
That's the rumor. Don't know if it's true. I'm going to go with it.
It was
Seems
also
true.
posted as a 60-minute wait that took, 15 minutes? And it only took
20
15
maybe.
minutes because 3 families walked past us.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like you go to Knott's because it's weird, right? And that's what I was trying to convey is it's like, I can't really tell you that it's good, but it's definitely weird. It's like if Disneyland was Vegas, Knott's would be Laughlin. It's like but you go there for that. Like, I love Calico Mine Train, and what I love most about it, perhaps, is that I'm not sure if the miners are supposed to be scary or mean or
you claimed
upset.
they were happy.
I think that
Not
maybe
by
they
their
are.
faces.
Yeah, very creepy ride, that ride.
Oh, it's wonderful. I love it.
By the way,
Love
we did
that
that.
place.
We did Calico Mine Train and the Boysenberry game when we went for the Boysenberry Festival with our Knott's friend.
Yep. And
so, do you recommend it, Eric? Recommend going to Knott's for the irony or for the fun?
I might be a boysen boy. I don't know.
Oh,
I think so.
I think you go for the irony and you stay for what fun seeps through the irony, because it does exist. But then you continue staying for the irony, and then you go back to Disneyland.
There you go.
I did go to Disneyland that night.
There you go.
I got
And
back.
it's
I walked
such a
in the
salve. It is such a salve, right?
Yeah, it was nice. It was very busy. It was right before Christmas, and very busy night. But then I walked through the park real quick, got on a couple rides. I think that was the night that I did the Space Mountain single rider, where a man got very angry because he didn't realize that the single rider line was a line. He just started walking down the hall, and somebody stopped him, and we're like, no, we all have to crowd into this nook over here.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Eric, you stayed at the new DVC Tower, yes?
Yes.
Can you give a 90-second review?
It's very colorful. I stayed on a Tiana floor. I don't know what the other floors are, but it was really pleasant. It was, I mean, the rooms were more themed than I thought they were supposed to be. Some people have said, "Oh, it's just a hotel." Like, no, it was pleasant. It was very nice. The pool bar downstairs, the Palm Breeze Lounge, expensive but very, very tasty food, good drinks, and I had a good time there.
2 questions. How much avocado toast did you eat?
None, but I did have a kale salad.
That's right.
No, a beet salad with kale.
With kale. Follow-up question. How many times were you welcomed home?
None. No
Zero
one
welcome
said
homes.
welcome home when I went in.
Even when you checked in?
Yep.
Wow. Now, there is a sign out front from experience. It does say welcome home.
There is a sign out front that says welcome home, and there was a podium that there was generally a cast member standing at that also read welcome home.
Oh,
but no one said it to me.
Here's what I loved. Did you notice the pixie dust and the magic wand along the walkway to the entrance?
Oh, yeah.
Yes,
Yeah,
that was very cool.
That was cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
When you mentioned the welcome home thing, I don't know if I've said this before on the show, but I'm reminded of when I worked at a movie theater in a mall. There was a Subway that was in that food court, and I discovered that there was a certain point where if you stepped over that line, you were technically in Subway, and they were required to say welcome to Subway.
Really?
Oh.
Yes. Like, it was, I confirmed this with one of the workers. They're like, no, it's part of the policy. It's a meeting. If we don't say welcome to Subway within a certain number of seconds and you're technically in Subway, we get in trouble.
Wow.
It's amazing. And so because of that, the most unwelcome welcome to Subway would be chanted over and over again. And you can hear them while you're like eating your, whatever Chuck Norris, Chuck Wagon food or whatever.
Wait, where was this Subway?
Parkway Plaza, alcohol.
And it was inside. I missed the part where it's in something else.
It was in a food court in a mall.
Okay.
By the way, Parkway Plaza Mall in El Cajon, maybe the most depressing place in the universe.
All right.
Oh,
Well, I think challenge to the listener. Anytime someone at Disney says welcome home, you say welcome to Subway.
Your attention, please.
Sephora's biggest sale of the year is on. Get 20% off the best gifts, including makeup from brands like Rare Beauty.
Oh my gosh, thank you.
20% off skincare from brands like Glow Recipe and Summer Fridays.
These are my fave.
20% off hair care like Way and K18.
I'm obsessed.
And 20% off fragrances like Valentino, Donna, Born, and Roma.
So good.
20% off your purchase. Now through December 15th. Shop now at Sephora and Sephora at Kohl's.
that tracks.
All right.
Right. Well,
Dan, take it away.
That's been Knott's Talk. If you would like to go to Knott's Berry Farm, you could book your very own trip. You could even stay at the Knott's Berry Farm Hotel itself, made entirely out of boysenberry jam. Oh, God. Hold on. Jimmy, while I'm coughing.
Jimmy, tell us about the hotel.
Tell us about concierge.
Entirely out of boysenberries. But if you wanted to book your trip to Knott's Berry Farm, you can call 856-OUR-EARS, and we will help you book your trip to Disneyland instead.
Right. So let's move on to our top / favorite stories of 2023.
And I also want to save all the concierge talk for the trip that I helped Jason book to Disneyland. He's coming up. Jason Petros from Ears Up. He is going with his family to Disneyland for the first time in a long time. And I want to go into the detail that I put into helping him plan his trip.
Right.
And try to make his experience the best possible. Yeah.
And to help you, if you listener, I'm sure there's at least a few of you who still haven't been back, or maybe you just want to hear certain nerdy details that we've come up with. It's been some time. There have been some changes. Traffic patterns have changed. 2024 tips and tricks for, how to sort of think about Disneyland if you are returning for the first time, much like Jason Bidget.
Much like Jason Bidget. Yeah. And Dan's a pro.
All right. So before we get there, top news of 2023, I think we should cap it at 15 total.
Okay.
Because I think that probably covers it. And that way and if we double dip, that counts as one.
Right. I do want to, Jimmy, I'm going to hand it over to you. But before I do, I want to give an honorary mention to, it's not exactly news, but it's a YouTube channel that I have totally learned to love called Florida Resident Edits. Let me say that more clearly. Florida Resident Edits. What they do is they take these vlogs from very, very entitled Disney vloggers, and they re-edit them to make them look entirely foolish. And it's wonderful. It's if you listen to this show and you don't mind a little bit of meanness, I think you are the audience for it. And in terms of meanness, these people are super entitled, and much of the videos are compilations of them, kind of just forgetting how lucky they are to be able to make a living off of going to Disney parks. So I just wanted to mention that because it's something I've been drawn to.
Remind us what it's called?
Florida Resident Edits.
Okay.
Nice.
All right. So 2023 was a horrible year for me personally. I don't know if it was great for the Walt Disney Company, but I want to highlight number 1 on my list, or number 5, I should say, were new characters in the Disney parks, namely the Hatbox Ghost at the Disney World Magic Kingdom's Haunted Mansion. The location of the Hatbox Ghost has some controversy because it is place technically before the seance that conjures the 999 happy haunts. One might argue that he's not a happy haunt. I don't know. Do you guys have a take on that?
I get what people have said about that. I don't know that I care. I mean, there's always a floating candelabra back there. Like,
yeah,
there are spooky things happening before the seance.
Right.
You just don't see a physical
That's
ghost.
That's true. Like the ghost trying to get out of the grave, for example.
Yes,
floating candelabra, the doors, people trying to get out of the doors, etc.
My feeling
around the clock.
My feeling of it is, how else are they going to get the Hatbox Ghost in there?
Well,
I mean, sure, it breaks the narrative of the ride, but how else are they going to get the beloved Hatbox Ghost in there?
I don't know. I don't know the reason they
There's
explained
literally
why it
no
wasn't.
other way, Jimmy.
Okay. Also,
damn.
as part of, I'm kind of shoehorning this in, but Baymax is a part of the new San Francisco.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm. Which is
Moana,
delightful.
Yeah. Which, by the way, San Francisco, aside from the faulty thing that failed and somebody got hit on I forget what it was on the bridge, but so Baymax, San Francisco. What are your thoughts on San Francisco, Dan?
I think that if it feels like it may as well have always been like that is the best way that I can put it. And not in the sense of like, why wasn't it always like this? It's like, yeah, I get why it was what it was. That makes sense. But now that it is this, it is, I don't want to overstate how much of an improvement it is, but it's very noticeable.
Fits so well.
Yeah, it just fits really perfectly.
Like it may as well have always been there.
Right.
Yeah, it's not a shoehorn. It's not an overlay. It just fits. And the same restaurants, for the most part, are still there. And when I was there, the last night that I stopped in, Avengers Campus was dead. There was nobody there. I went to San Francisco, and it was packed. Every single table was taken. There were people everywhere. It's where they hang out now. Yeah.
And it being packed kind of adds to the atmosphere of it, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah.
It's and you say it's not shoehorned and it's not tacked on, but what's interesting is it absolutely is shoehorned and tacked on, but it feels just like a natural fit.
Right. Yeah. Very well designed, very well implemented. I thought it was fantastic.
Just scratching the surface, but you've got Moana, of course, that's not the Journey of Water part, but the Moana meet and greet. Figment is back. Mirabelle's at the Magic Kingdom. So new characters. That is my number one highlight for 2023.
All right. New year, new you, new characters. I got, let's see, for my number 5, pin traders have been stripped of their freedom at the Disneyland resort.
The very clearly unthemed, un-Disney people that set up shop just inside Frontierland.
Yes. It was so bad. It was so bad. What used to happen, I don't know if anyone listening knows this, but you would go
elaborate.
it used to be that when you would go into Frontierland, there'd be these nice benches where you could enjoy the theming, but very early every day there would be pin traders who would just take over the benches, and they would just have their big ugly pin collections just open, and it was basically like you walked into a flea market. Very unattractive, very not to say anything about the people, it just did not look good.
Yeah, I was going to say some of them were pretty good looking.
Some of them were butt ugly though. I mean, you've seen people; they range, right?
Yeah, that's how people are.
That's how people are. Disney in November. What's very interesting is in October, around October, there were a lot of complaints about this being a thing, and then Disneyland renovated overnight. Guests in shock. They just removed a bunch of the benches, and nobody liked that. So in November, around November, they just decided we're going to come up with a policy here, and they initiated this new policy. And they said, pin traders, you cannot take over the benches, but we're going to give you these nice little standy tables with no seats where that are designated clearly for pen trading. And they also added some rules about, it can't be a knockoff, has to be an official thing. I don't know much about pen trading. It's not a level of nerdiness that I have ever engaged with. But apparently there are all of these, there have been knockoffs and it's been a problem. And Disneyland basically said, those benches are ours. Stop it.
So is it a revenue issue or is it a distraction from the public issue?
Distraction. And I guess some of the pen traders were, kind of unruly if people would try to sit in the benches, heaven forbid you sit in a bench.
Spot.
Yeah, there was a lot of that. And, these cultures that pop up around these things where it's like, oh, that's Ted's bench, like, well, you just know, okay.
Like a Disneyland gang kind of thing.
Yeah, it's like the social clubs. Yeah.
Yeah, that kind of thing. I'm not saying that actually developed, but it's certainly the kind of thing that
the same ilk.
Yeah, it can develop, and cliques exist and they can develop over anything. So
related, unrelated, and this is not one of the top 15 or whatever, but I read somewhere that they recently did away with, you're no longer allowed to, or they're cracking down on private tours that are non-Disney sanctioned.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah,
no, that is definitely
tours.
that is going to be the next thing, I think, because it's you could basically you can kind of see them. It's like it's like okay, so I'm too far in it. I'm just going to say I was trying to come up with a way to connect it to a joke about how if you want to become a personal trainer, you just show up at a gym and wear a shirt that says trainer on the back. And that's kind of what some of these people appear to be doing. Is just like, I'm wearing plaid.
Oh, interesting.
Well, not really. Not really.
Okay.
But no, there is.
They get a flag.
I can see. Yeah, there you can if you know what to look for, you can see. It's not. There's not a ton of them, but I'm seeing them more and more because I think getting the VIP tour is becoming more and more popular in itself. Mm-hmm. It's just, I think it's bound to be a thing, and I'm curious to see how that develops. But
it's a lucrative industry. I know several people who do it. I've been approached to be one of them, and it's
really?
I'm one of those, one of the good boys. Like, I would never do that. Like, pay me what you want to pay me. I just wouldn't do it because it's just not right.
Right.
I mean, I do it for friends and family and stuff, just matter of course. But another thing that I thought was interesting, not to usurp Eric's time, and again, this is not one of our top, but along the same lines, the Disney Dish, the Len Testa and his team, they're constantly in the parks every day looking at, how many people are getting into Lightning Lane and whatever. And they observed that people are being kicked out of DAS for abusing the system.
Oh, good.
That they are questioning who's in the group. Like, they visibly saw people get removed from the queue because the people who are listed as the DAS people were not in that group. And they were removed from the queue because they were taking advantage of the system.
Yeah, and Len's been saying for a while that it seems to his team's view that there are more Lightning Lanes are more DAS than Genie these days, which is interesting. Like, that's a lot. I mean, and I've used DAS Pass with my family. My nephew has Down syndrome, and we have used DAS Pass, and that's fine. But that's really somebody's going to find a way to abuse any system.
This has come up before on Ears Up, and Eric or Dan, years and years ago, you were part of the conversation that was kind of controversial at the time, I believe. And I think you were saying the same thing, that people are taking advantage of it.
I have decided to take the unpopular take on this, knowing that there is another side to the argument. and these two sides are required for the argument to exist, right? I think that my take on it is that yes, these things will always get taken advantage of. However,
But
it's not. Once we get to a place where we, you and I, common people, not Disney employees, not Disney operations, not people that need the DAS pass, not people that don't need the DAS pass, just average ass person. It's best that we don't get into a place where we are starting to take score of the line and go like, I don't think that person needs it. That person doesn't need it.
Mhm.
That person doesn't need it, because you don't know. And
That's right.
you could be right. But I'm just saying that it opens a door that is very hard to close, and is not at all good to open when you start doing that. And it's sort of it's kind of like welfare. It's like, yeah, people are going to take advantage of it, and to some extent, like, that's built in, but there's also some safeguards built in that at the end of the day, we just kind of have to hope and trust that the right people are getting the help. And some of the wrong people, are going to take advantage just by by the nature of it. But if, 3 people take advantage of it, while if you were to make a change to make it so that 3 people couldn't take advantage of it, but that one person who absolutely did need it wouldn't be able to have access to it because of that, that's not good.
You'll take the 3 people.
I'll take the 3.
Right. Gotcha.
I get it.
Yeah. All right. Well, Eric, why don't we move on to your number 5?
Well, I took a slightly different approach, and I have technically 10 articles. I'm going to summarize the ongoing waste of time and money that is DeSantis versus Disney.
There was recently a meeting to disband the Central Florida to go back to Reedy Creek, and they couldn't vote on it because not enough people showed up.
I just want to stand up for people who are not woke. I want to denounce my co-hosts who are clearly in the pocket of big
woke,
big Brandon, big woke, and yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
All right,
thanks for making that stand, Dan. All right, I'll start out with a quick run through February and March. I can't believe that this has all been happening in the same year. February of 2023, the transfer of power was passed through legislature, signed by DeSantis. The Reedy Creek Improvement District was dissolved, and we got the glory of the Central Florida Tourism Oversight Board. Yay! What do they oversee? Only Disney.
Yep.
That's all they oversee.
Well, that's all that needs to be overseen.
Right. DeSantis immediately installed new, quote, according to, I'll put all the links to we'll put all the links into the show notes. At least I'll put mine in. You guys just need to send me your links. Let's see. DeSantis installed new, according to this article, cultural warriors who might be less interested in working with a business and more interested in pushing some sort of agenda.
Big woke.
Odd. This continued into March, where another article pretty much... This is one of those the times that this whole thing became interesting. All of the Disney fans are excited and happy that the board, right before it was dissolved, passed I know it's been so long, and it's so great. They passed this referendum that really doesn't mean a whole lot in the long run. But they passed their Royal Lives Clause that blocked the new board from using Disney's name and any Disney IP. And they also blocked the board from changing any design aspects of the parks going forward, basically into perpetuity, because the ending of this referendum that was legally passed in an open session of this group before it was changed, It lasts until 21 years after the death of the last surviving descendant of King Charles III. So basically forever. And everybody
And that was
pumped their
before he
fists.
was king, right?
No, he was king at that point.
Okay.
Yeah, everybody pumped their fists in the air and said, "Yay, we really showed him." And it ultimately doesn't mean a whole lot. I don't know that this new board would have done anything like we're gonna change the name of this street to DeSantis Town, and we're gonna go up and paint the castle purple. Like, it really, I don't think that this board would have done any of that. Who knows? But we'll find out as we continue during this great adventure of politics and grandstanding and lawsuits that never accomplish anything. All right, I'll pass it back to you, Jimmy.
At some point recently, DeSantis is like, I'm over that. Like, I don't care anymore. And I believe, let's make a prediction now that the Reedy Creek Improvement District will be reinstated by the end of 2024.
That's
I think it will very quietly be reinstated. Maybe 3 days after he's out of the presidential race.
So tomorrow. Okay.
Well, don't worry, I've got plenty more stories on this. So,
all right. Well, I'm cheating a little bit because it was announced in 2023 that the theme park reservations at Walt Disney World are officially done on January 9th. And that was announced in 2023. Park reservations, dining plan, basically going back to pre-COVID for the most part. Annual pass holders have a little bit of an exception. Good to go days are now a thing. But that's an exciting piece of news from 2023 that we're kind of getting back to quote unquote normal. Park hopping is whenever you want.
No,
you don't have to make a reservation anymore. Once you buy your tickets, they know you're going to be there during a certain period of time. And so if you want to start at Epcot and 4 minutes later go to Magic Kingdom, you can do it.
At least for ticket purchasers. For annual pass holders still generally have to book, except for good to go days.
That's right. So that is my number 4.
I find this story delightful because David on Fresh Baked, this is like his white whale, and I've noticed it. He has a couple, but this is one of the big ones where anytime any good news comes up involving reservation, he hates the reservation system at Disneyland. I probably would too if I lived, less than an hour and a half away. I honestly don't know, but anytime any sort of good news comes in this direction for Florida, he gets this starry look in his eyes. I'm like, could this be the end of the reservation system for Disneyland? I'm just like, David, no, it's not. It is not. I'm sorry. I know you want it, but he has such confirmation bias that it's almost cute to watch, where it's just like, I think this is it. I think this is it.
So getting into a little speculation now. Now we pointed out it's probably the answer. Date-based tickets, which are a majority of people going to Disney World, are booking tickets in advance. They're not just showing up to buy tickets, which I assume is a thing you can do now. I don't know. But that because there are so relatively few annual pass holders in Orlando, they're still reservation-based. But is it because such a majority of the goers to Disneyland are annual pass holders that it's kind of the inverse?
I think, I think that is the speculation. I think that's probably correct. And they've been doing this thing recently where, they close off the park for annual pass holders during 2 weeks in December. And I think the first year, a lot of annual pass holders thought, okay, well, this will show them. They're going to have empty streets, and they're going to have to close it down, and they're going to have to call us each personally and beg us to return. And it was so busy. And that kind of showed that no, the annual passes here, maybe in the middle of February or something. Yeah, we need it, but we don't really need you. This is really more of a courtesy, and we're happy to do it. Happy sometimes, but like, no, we're still the reservation system is going nowhere, and I think that we deserve it. We know what we did.
Interesting take.
You cut the line too many times, Californians.
Friend of the show, Marie, sent me a link saying, "Oh, we're going to make you a magic key holder. Magic keys are back."
Oh yeah, they are. Oh yeah, that's right.
This is a 2024 thing, but I opened the link and it says for renewal only. For renewal only. It's like,
currently
they're not back.
Yeah. No, they're coming. I forgot to put this in my notes, but yeah, they are resuming sales again. Actually, on possibly the day this episode is released, if that is January 10th.
Congratulations.
Yeah, no, all the tiers are going on sale. Who knows for how long?
15 minutes.
Possibly. But yeah, I think that anyone who had an annual pass before the end times, like, we all know how obnoxious we can be, especially at Disneyland. And I really think that Disneyland specifically, needs to always have some way to keep us in check, or we will become obnoxious again. I mean, that's just kind of, even if they don't actually need the reservation system, they need the reservation system just
even
to put us in our
biting
place.
Satire of very annual pass holders did little to change attitudes.
The one episode, yeah.
We're gonna get T-shirts made. Woboa. We will become obnoxious again. Woboa. Sorry, Dan.
Let's see.
Your turn.
No, that's fine. My story, favorite, not favorite at all. Actually, very sad story. Murphy, the Phantasmic Dragon, burst into flames. I'm not laughing because it's funny, but it is funny at the same time. Have you ever? I don't know if there's also a word for understanding how someone might feel schadenfreude while observing you experience the bad thing, because that's what I experienced at the time. Listeners, I don't know if you know how much I love Phantasmic. I don't think anyone knows how much I love Phantasmic.
We got a sense during that episode.
That's the thing. You got a sense, and I'm not going to I don't want to get way further into it, but everything that I said in that episode was, most of what I said in that episode regarding how I feel about the show was absolutely true. Again, it's not hard to make this happen, but I cried when I heard this because, because the story of this dragon is so, if you know the story, it's like they put so much work into making this happen. The dragon used to be like a dragon head on a pole with like some tarps on top of it. And that was kind of like, hey, what do you expect? It's a thing that this dragon came out of the stage. What do you want from us? And it worked. It was kind of cool. But then they decided, what if we actually make this giant dragon, like a cartoon realistic dragon? And years and years of work went into this. Its name was Murphy because there were so many trials and tribulations and errors and all of the things
Murphy's
that
Law.
could go, all the things that could go wrong did go wrong. And if you look at, there's videos on YouTube of like people losing their minds when it came out for the first time and worked and made it through the whole thing. Like people were cheering, like, and I was like right there with them, not physically, but you know, with this feeling of like, they finally did it. You know, it was just like this cool thing. And then to hear, the dragon burned up and there's no way they can use it again is, it's like fittingly tragic. It fits so perfectly with the story of Murphy the Dragon. And that's what, and it sucks. It's so sad. I still can't bring myself to watch the video because it's like, it's so sad.
It is pretty sad. Just as a fun little sidebar, Erik and I were across the street when that happened.
Oh,
It was the annual concierge event, and we all arrived that night.
Wow.
Yep.
I didn't see Erik that night. He was at Disneyland. That's all I'm going to say.
Erik.
No, I was either at a bar or at DCA, I would imagine.
Or both.
But
Yes.
right. That was a very impactful news story for me. Phantasmic is returning May 24th of this year. It originally opened on May 13th some years ago. So I don't want to say that this means they might push to open it a little bit early, but if you happen to be planning a trip around that time, maybe keep your eyes open. Again, I truly have no inside knowledge. However, if there is anything that they might open early, this could be one of the things that they decide to do.
Maybe some
it's like,
annual pass holder
like
previews.
11 days,
Yeah.
Not even 11. 11? I don't know. Math is hard. Anyway, Erik. What do you got?
All right. Let's skip forward to August when DeSantis placed a new chief in. This is all I'm talking about is this whole stupid thing.
Digging at my hero.
He installed Glenn Gilzine, who is the head of the Florida Ethics Commission. He was still in charge of the Florida Ethics Commission when he was placed in charge of the new Central Florida Tourism Oversight Board, which I still have to look up every time because it
rolls off the tongue.
Just flows right out of my brain the second I say it.
Erik, can you refresh my memory? Is he the one that looks like he is afraid that someone might find his browser history, or is he the one that looks like the person who made the things that person consumes?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I think you're thinking of a different guy. Whose name I also can't remember. But yes, Glenn was eventually ruled. He was told he had to leave the Ethics Commission. Why didn't he just leave the Disney? The Central Florida Tourism Oversight Board. Why didn't he give up his post there? Because he was getting paid $400,000 a year to be in charge of the Central Florida Tourism Oversight
Keeps referring
Board.
to it. The ethics guy?
The ethics guy. So it was deemed that he was basically being in charge of the Ethics Commission. He's not allowed to hold any other public office, and this is a public office. So a judge had to tell him, you need to pick. And he picked. He picked the one that pays him $400,000 a year.
Wow. It could have had an ethics accountability partner like Mike Johnson and his son with porn.
Hey,
Yes.
that's
Exactly.
It's important that people know what their family is doing.
Oh, gosh.
That's a different 2023 list. Sorry.
Different list. And then in September, lest we think that this whole thing is just knocking on the state of Florida and them being crooked.
Lest we think.
Yeah, I don't want to give you that impression. Disney also apparently screwed up when it was running the Reedy Creek District. One of the benefits of working for the Reedy Creek District was that the employees all received an annual pass to Walt Disney World. And unfortunately, Disney didn't realize that there are tax implications for this. There is a monetary value associated with this. So essentially, they should have taxed this. So the district was deemed to owe $2 million in back taxes. And it's still ongoing how that's going to be fixed up. The board has changed the policy. They took away that benefit for employees, saying that, well, some people don't want an annual pass to Walt Disney World. So now they promise a $3,000 allowance for all employees. but they can't give that to any of the union workers who are working at the district because they have to finish the back tax issue first. So all of these people who just renegotiated a union deal are not getting any benefit related to the parks, and now they're mad again. So that's a fun thing that's still ongoing since September.
By the way, Eric, I thought your answer to my joke question was a joke answer, but it was actually accurate. He is neither.
Yeah, I think I know the guy you're talking about. I know the guy you're talking about, and I can't remember his name. He was the chairman for a while.
All right, well, let's move back to Disney World. Tron Light Cycle Run comes to the U.S. It was a Shanghai Disneyland attraction that came to Disney World on April 4th, 2023.
When did they start building it, Jimmy?
Sometime in 2014. It took,
1986.
COVID and et cetera, but in short, it'll take Universal less time to build an entire theme park than it took Disney to build Tron Light Cycle Run.
I just want to introduce into the tomes of show lore that the Tron Light Cycle was originally they started working on it originally to coincide with the release of Tron.
The release of Tron Legacy.
No, Tron.
Oh, the original Tron. Yes.
1980, whatever.
Yeah.
That's right, 86. Anyhow, so Tron Light Cycle Run, was it worth the wait? I don't know. It's a 60-minute or 60-second attraction. One of the first Disney attractions to require you to put all your belongings into a little, not a safe, but like a little locker.
A Knott's cubby.
Yeah, well, it's a little more efficient. It reminds me a lot more of what they do at Universal, where they have a little, like at Velocicoaster, there's a little cubby. You put your stuff in, on your way back, you take it out. And Light Cycle Run opened April 4th, 2023.
By the way, Velocipaster is apparently a movie I should watch. Anyway,
I have heard of this movie.
Another story I got. The bear, the Magic Kingdom bear.
The bear.
Oh, the bear. That's right.
I'm including this as an actual delightful article or a delightful story for me because we got to hear / read the media cover this with so many puns and so many jokes about how, like, you would think it was from the Country Bear Jamboree or from Splash Mountain. It's the dumbest level of journalism, and I love it. I'm here for it. I consume it. Yum, yum, yum. It is the best. And I don't remember what episode it is of Scraping the Vault. Might be our most recent episode, maybe the one before, where I read one of these stories and I included a clip supposedly of the bear, but it was actually a clip of the lady who peed in a cup at Disneyland. I don't mind explaining that joke. That wasn't 2023,
was it?
Because no, that was.
I was going to say
that is to me the gold standard of Disney headlines. The woman peeing in the cup. Absolute hero. Because she's
there it is.
Yes. Because she you see, she's a teacher, a speech therapist. Mm-hmm. She doesn't have time to go to Crenshaw and Slauson. Where apparently the one bathroom in the district is. Mm-hmm. Anyway, the bear story is a delightful story because not only is it interesting, we got to see journalists just make the dumbest jokes possible. And it reminded me of the woman peeing in the cup. And it's a perfect gift. It's like the universe tied something up and said, here, this year has sucked. Look at this. I'm like, oh, thank you, world. Yeah.
All right. The bear.
The bear.
The bear. Can you give us one of those jokes, Dan?
Which one? Oh.
One of the
bad puns.
Jokes?
Give me a second. I'll look up an actual article.
All right. You'll come back. Eric,
All right.
what else did DeSantis do?
Moving on to more of September. It was announced that when it comes to the ongoing legal battle, that Disney has to pay legal bills on both sides. That's right, because the Central Florida Tourism Oversight Board is entirely funded through taxes. They're essentially paying both sides. Disney pays 86% of the taxes that fund the Central Florida Tourism Oversight District. And it is spending millions on legal fees. It's estimated that in this fiscal year, which for Disney is October, starts in October, they will pay $4.5 million on the district side, not even on their own side. So that's fantastic that this is, by keeping this whole thing going, where Jimmy, you already said that DeSantis has kind of lost interest. Disney's just wasting money. They're just throwing money to keep this whole thing going. And then by the end of October, it was announced that over 40 employees have left the board. The board chairman says the vibe's real good. They've got a really, really great culture going on. But a third of the people have left. The Orlando Sentinel estimates that more than 350 years of combined experience, a tenth of the district have left, but 350 years of combined experience. We're talking people that have been part of the district for many years. Everybody's leaving. But the chairman says, hey, the vibe's good around here. It's fine. Yeah.
I think he wants to see the Country Bear Jamboree, quipped one state officer. No ticket, no entry. You don't get free rides.
Nice. Nailed it.
Delightful.
Yeah, good job. Okay, well, Epcot is new again. So Epcot Future World, formerly Future World, now World Celebration, is officially open. That includes Walt the Dreamer statue, which, there's some controversy on the layout of that, but it's a nice statue. He's on a bench. He's not in the center of the bench because Walt would never put himself in the center. You have, so this is a line from The Simpsons. The former Future World's very name had grown ironic. And as The Simpsons put it, it was how the 21st century looked in the early 1980s.
Sure.
Anyway, pretty much.
Yeah. So Walt the Dreamer, the fountains have been there for a while now, but it's kind of opened up. There's some trees. There's some lighting in the ground that after the first pressure wash stopped working. It's just general. We're back in it's the Pressler days of Disney World, I should say. You've got Luminous, The Story of Us, Moana, The Journey of Water. So Epcot's back.
Well, things are open.
Yes, things are open. And I think outside of they're opening in 2024, I think they're opening what used to be Innovations West. I want to say, what do they call it? Communicore.
I think they're calling it Communicore again.
Yeah, Communicore. That's effectively it's a meet and greet, which is what it used to be. It's just a new building. But that'll be kind of the end of the new Epcot. The 2022 saw the Guardians, but now we have 4 worlds: World Discovery, World Celebration, World Nature, and World Showcase. So maybe a little more thematically consistent, but yeah, Epcot's done.
Epcot is done. Here's something you've never heard of: Splash Mountain closing.
Oh,
this falls into that category of the gift that keeps on giving. I don't think we need to go further into it. We've talked plenty about this, but if I'm putting together a list of top 5 favorite / most interesting stories, Splash Mountain closing and all of the things that have been surrounding it. have been a delight. And I'm sure that once Tiana's Bayou Adventure opens, all of those people will be very reasonable and they will ride the ride and they will say, you know what? I think that this was a good idea.
Grand.
In maybe Tom Corliss listens to our show news. They were talking about a new fixture that was put on Tiana's Bayou Adventure.
I saw that. Yeah,
you saw that with the not the windmill. What do they call the weather vane?
Yeah.
That was handmade by a Louisiana, been around for generations weather vane guy, and he just went on and on about how you should not judge attractions before they're opened, and
you can tell he's feeling it. You can tell that like it's maybe getting to him a little bit because
some of the negative comments are like, hey, calm down. Because then he's like, you don't get mad at attractions before they open. You know, see like Mickey Minnie's Runaway Railway, like I hate it now, but I didn't hate it before it opened.
Right.
Just giving it a chance to breathe.
Yeah. No, he what he said was actually, I think, kind of responsible, and he clearly knows that his fan base is part of the problem. But then he followed it up with just like, I mean, it's probably going to suck, but
yeah, exactly.
I love that you two still hate listen to Corliss.
Hate watch.
Hate watch.
There's a difference, Eric. Come on.
Exactly. I don't listen.
You stare vacantly at the screen.
That's right.
As he stares vacantly back at us. Yes, exactly.
Anyway, so the Tiana's Bayou Adventure closed.
Yeah.
Sure. No, wait, sorry.
Splash Mountain. Yeah. I'm like, what joke are you making there?
No, I did not do that on purpose.
Yeah. It's just a log flume ride, people. Like, I just want to say, some early reports are saying that Iger has called parts of it, quote, boring. And I really hope it's not. I hope it's everything that it needs to be to shut these idiots up. It's like it can't win in a way. Like no matter what they do, these morons are going to find some nitpicky thing. I hope it's good. That's all I want to say.
You know what? I'm sure it will be. I think just I think back to Tom Corliss's point, the fact that they're putting that level of nuanced detail into it, like hiring a guy who'd been doing this archaic trade for, part of generations of people, that the amount of level of detail, which is what we love so much about Disney, are those, intricate, no one will ever notice details.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
It's a good sign.
Yeah, that's very good.
Yeah.
I mean, we could do like a whole thing on weather vanes. Maybe that's
we sure could. That's something I discovered only in our Village House episode, ironically.
Right.
That weather vanes are a thing.
Oh, they're everywhere.
They're like the popcorn guys in the popcorn at Disneyland. Like everyone's a little different and they all have a story.
The roasty toasty.
Roasty toasties.
That one.
Yeah, I still think that Disney World is going to get the version that they're planning for Tiana's Bayou Adventure, which I suspect might be kind of underwhelming, and then Disneyland is going to get a better version. That's been my prediction for the whole time.
Sure. Thematically, it makes more sense because they're annexing Tiana into New Orleans Square,
right?
And until they
they're
do
keeping
a New
her
Orleans
in
Square
Critter Country.
No, they're not.
That ride's going to be in Critter Country. Why won't
I thought? Like,
what else would be in
why are people finding it easier to believe that Winnie the Pooh is going to be the only ride left in Critter Country?
One side of the street, Critter Country. The other side, New Orleans.
Yeah.
Well, aren't they doing that with the theming of the ride though? Like the left half is going to be more New Orleans foodie, and the right half is going to be more crittery, like Matterhorn.
Yeah, but Critter isn't a location specific designation. There's critters everywhere.
Mm-hmm. Anyway,
I don't know. Try it.
But you're probably right. It's probably going to be a better version of Disneyland, only because they'll have time to figure out what they did wrong.
Yeah, and then it'll make me happy because we do this show.
There you go.
Eric,
what happened in November in the Central Florida Oversight Tourism Bureau?
Oh well,
Annex.
let's see. In November, the state, efforts are in motion to get a recall of the district added to the ballot. And that's this story is mostly boring. Like in general, the whole Central Florida Tourism Oversight Board story is boring. But I'm going to talk more about it. On December 5th, the district released an 80-page report describing Disney's Reedy Creek Board as, quote, the most egregious exhibition of corporate cronyism in modern American history. The report cost $360,000 to produce. Again, mostly Disney's money being used to produce an 80-page report saying that Disney is bad. Disney responded that, quote, the report is neither objective nor credible, only seeks to advance CFTOD's interests in its wasteful litigation that could derail further investment within the district.
Sorry, Eric, what's CFTOD?
Oh, the Central Florida Tourism Oversight District. Further, it does not change the fact that the Central Florida Tourism Oversight District Board was appointed by the governor to punish Disney for exercising its constitutional right to free speech, because corporations are people.
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
The report criticized Disney for not building affordable housing on property, which is something that Disney really should have done a long time ago. Mm-hmm. They do have housing for the Disney College program that is somewhat affordable from what I hear, but they are actively building. They started this a couple of years ago where both Universal and Disney are building housing for their employees. So that's something that came up when land values skyrocketed a few years back. The board claims they're cleaning up Disney's cronyism. They're currently replacing it with more cronyism, and were criticized for offering no-bid contracts to former colleagues from other state boards. Mm-hmm. They were saying, well, Disney's had these long-standing contracts. Let's assign them to somebody else, like my, cousin. The board has been offering a large amount of contracts to new companies, despite the board's own policy of seeking multiple bids for any contract over $100,000. How did they pull this off? They also eliminated the practice. So the reason they were able to start renegotiating these contracts is because they eliminated the board's policy of focusing on minority-based contracting.
Oh, thank God.
Yes. I've got one more story after this one. So, Jimmy, back to you.
Well, just stay very closely tuned to what that story might be.
Yes.
So I would like to finally highlight the fact that Disney turned 100 years old. There are not a lot of companies that are relevant today that are 100 years old and still thriving. General Electric, Chevron, Procter & Gamble, Johnson & Johnson, Pfizer, Coca-Cola companies. There's not a lot of, Fortune 100, let's call them, companies that are 100 years old and still thriving and relevant. I think arguably Disney is as relevant, more relevant today than it was 100 years ago or 50 years ago even. So I guess I kind of want to celebrate that, and Disneyland has sort of been the central hub for their 100th anniversary, which makes sense. But yeah, I don't know if they did a wonderful job with the 100. They have different, icons and statues and stuff that, not too dissimilar to the 50th anniversary of Disney World. But I don't know. I guess I want to celebrate that not only is Disney 100 years old, but if you think about 100 years of history, the amount of people who have been in charge of the company, you can put on two hands, is pretty significant for 100 years. You've got that sort of weird period between Eisner and Walt with Card Walker and that one random guy, and then the son-in-law, right? But then
Ron
Eisner,
Miller,
Iger, Chapek, and Iger, right? I mean, it's really been just a handful of people who have run this company, which is another very rare thing to have such few people run such a successful organization.
I think I'm actually kind of impressed with how understated the 100th was, but I think it was properly stated, but mainly because like they kind of there's so many anniversaries and so many celebrations and so many different things that it can in some ways feel like okay, I get it. You're just doing another celebration to do another celebration. Here's okay, come back again. Come back. It's special this time. Come back this time. It's special. No, this time it's special.
Well, yeah, and that was an Eisner. Well, I mean, Walt even did it.
Yeah,
Back to like the
Tencennial.
tencennial and everything.
So I was when I like a long time ago when I saw that they were doing a celebration for the 100th. I for whatever reason I just rolled my eyes and like, oh, I just want, can we just have a normal thing, you know? And it kind of was a normal thing. It was just like, hey, here's some extra banners and extra stuff, and you know, we'll do an extra version of this show. But it wasn't like it was acknowledged, and it was acknowledged, but it wasn't like at least in my experience, it was an appropriate amount of a deal that they made for it. And yeah, it's a big deal, but kind of only to us nerds, you know?
Right. And I think as a result, and Dan, forgive me, I know I'm not going to take over Eric's points, but some honorable mentions in that the Adventureland Treehouse opened, Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway opened.
Yeah.
The other things we talked about. For such a quote unquote down year, there's been a lot of stuff that has happened in the parks for the last year. Speculation about what's going to happen. I think it would be in their best interest from a parks fan perspective in this upcoming D23 to really put their money where their mouth is with all these grandiose plans, especially in light of what Universal's doing. Universal in Central Texas, Universal in Great Britain, some of these more regional theme park ideas and the investment of Epic Universe. It seems like, and maybe they don't care, maybe they don't need it. You know, they know their business better than we do, but it feels like D23 is an opportunity for them to really show what's going to happen with the $80 billion that Bob Iger committed over the next 10 years or whatever.
Perhaps they could make reference to my top story, which is Disneyland Forward.
There you go.
I think that, so again, if you're listening to this show, you know what these things are. So I would rather just talk about it. But in case you don't know, Disneyland Forward is they're going to build more stuff in spaces that are currently essentially parking lots. Look it up on the news sites if you want more, you know, deep details about it. But
Dan, just in brief,
yes,
the idea.
Yes, you're better at that than I am.
The idea is, hey, listen, Anaheim, these areas are not zoned for theme parks, but look what we could do with the land we already own if you allow for us to zone this thing for a theme park, effectively,
or for whatever we want.
Or whatever we want.
Right.
Yeah. Effectively, what it looks like is where I parked for New Year's, you know, kind of south of Pixar Pier, and then where the skyrise parking structures are now. Let's extend Disneyland and DCA into that area and to expand these theme parks for additional revenue, which will help everybody. I don't know where everybody's going to park necessarily, but that's the idea for Disneyland Forward. It's an idea. It's a proposal to the city of Anaheim saying, look what we can do. Continue.
Well, and I think this is going to end up being kind of a sleeper thing moving forward. And especially this is mostly based on speculation from Bricky, who is another YouTube vlogger that I appreciate. Basically, he's been spending the entire year mapping out like this idea of, okay, yeah, they're talking about what's going to be happening over on the west side of the park, or the parks rather. But what's really interesting is that we have this giant spot of land over on the east side that they very easily could turn into a central parking location. And then it's entirely credible that they could take the Toy Story lot. And yeah, they're saying they're going to turn it into a Disney Springs sort of situation, but it's right across the street from Garden Walk. So it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to have shopping district, especially when they already have downtown Disney. What he's been speculating and making a really good case for is that Toy Story parking is probably going to be a new theme park. Again, this is just based on the speculation of a YouTuber, but he's laid the case out really, really well that what is likely in the plans that they're not really talking about simply because they can't yet is purchase Garden Walk, turn that into like Downtown Disney Part 2, maybe have some sort of a skyway going from the parking lot that they would need to build across Harbor, have that connect to maybe the Mickey and Friends and Pixar parking structure, and have that also connect to whatever the new theme park would be, where the Toy Story parking lot is currently. And Eric, when you told me what you had learned about things that are coming,
according to my plaid on my last trip, I did the tour of Walt's apartment. He said that the Toy Story parking lot is already done. Like that's approved, it's passed, it's going to happen. He doesn't know what is going to happen, but he knows that something is going to happen with it. And the other properties, he goes, I don't see any reason why this wouldn't happen eventually.
So I had this conversation with my family when we were there on New Year's. We were talking about Disneyland Forward. I wonder, does the walkway to said expansion go under Disneyland Drive or over Disneyland Drive, and how do you theme it?
Huh.
Oh, that one, that's I think it goes over.
Mm-hmm. Like Downtown Disney does.
Yeah, and I think that that's a very effective way of going over it, but I think
they'd have to enclose it to keep out the sirens and all that stuff.
Maybe. I mean, the hardest part is going from what I would imagine would be Critter Country to whatever they extend from there. Because how do you justify a bridge over like that's I know it's just out. I have no way of conceptualizing how they're going to figure out how to do that. I trust that they can and will. Mm-hmm. But then it's also there are so many questions. I'm very, very I'm curious to see how they solve these problems, because then it also becomes, well, do you have an additional exit in that direction that takes you out to?
You kind of have to the hotels.
You
right?
might have to, or do you have like? This falls into that category of like, and I think I've talked about it before on one of these shows, where like what I don't like about how debate is happening currently in our culture is it becomes like, well, if you can't figure out the answer, then that means it's not going to happen. It's like I truly don't know. It's not my job. But I trust the people that do have the job. I think California Adventure, that's way easier because it's just like, hey, look at the freeway or whatever, but
there's a conference center.
Yeah, it's like, welcome to California. This is Disneyland Drive. It's an interesting thing, but I do think that the more thought I put into the bricky direction of Toy Story parking lot being a third park, that becomes very interesting, because then what happens with Garden Walk? And
it's not big enough for a theme park.
What's that?
It is
big enough.
I just parked there. It's not that big.
It doesn't seem that big.
If you look at the acreage, and again, Bricky did the numbers. I'm not gonna and I didn't write it down or quote him, but it is at least as big as California Adventure was when it first opened.
Mm-hmm. Then what could go wrong?
Well, right. But then, Eric, didn't your plaid also say that Tron is happening and Pandora is happening?
He has no more details on what the Pandora experience is going to be, but that is definitely going to happen. And he also has heard it confirmed that there will be a Tron something.
Right. And I think that the Pandora thing is going to happen where Toy Story parking lot is. That's just speculation on my part. But and also Tron, they don't have the space.
Well, they have it in DCA. Get rid of monsters. Get rid of all the sound stages. You got the room.
Yeah, those two giant warehouses are.
That's true.
Yep, you got the room.
Pretty big.
I don't know. It's all just speculation. Point is,
I don't know that
Disneyland
Tron would work
Forward.
there.
I mean, it's better than nothing.
What does? Yeah.
Yeah. I think mainly my main point is that Disneyland Forward is a story. It's something that happened. It's something that will be happening. And it's something that I think will be developing in really interesting ways going forward.
All right, Eric?
Well, the latest salvo, Disney filed suit on December 22nd against the Central Florida Tourism Oversight Board. But they are now complaining, as of December 26th, that their request for public records as part of the suit are not being returned in a timely manner, which is required by Florida law. Now, what's interesting, the board members state that they are allowed to choose what they give out because they use personal devices for the job. They don't have state-assigned computers and phones. They use their personal equipment for the job, so they don't have to give out everything because then they'd be giving out personal information. The only one who does have to give out everything is the board chairman, who, as we recall, makes $400,000 a year. So he also gets a free computer and phone. That's the latest. It's still ongoing. This is the weirdest thing. Ultimately, nobody has tried to push anything crazy. The Central Florida Tourism Oversight Board District has not. They haven't tried to do anything. They have approved things. They've done normal board work. Sure, one time DeSantis showed up at a board meeting. One time he showed up at a board meeting and made a statement that, well, maybe we could make another theme park here. Or maybe we could have tolls on the roads. Or maybe we could make a prison.
Well done.
And of course,
I could almost hear you wearing heels when you did that.
No one wants any of that. Tolls on the Disney roadways? No way. Like, none of this is ever going to happen. The board, despite being cronies, they really, like most boards of things, haven't really done much of anything other than, all right, let's approve that pothole repair. Okay. All right, good job. Congrats. We did it. Let's all go home. Let's all go to Waffle House. So there we go. That's my saga for the year.
Another thing I heard on the Disney Dish is they were talking about the short takeoff and landing, or STOL airport.
The STOL port, yeah,
it's still there.
It is.
And it's on Google Maps, just east of the Transportation Ticket Center. It's called STOL Drive. Short takeoff and landing. You see the old terminal building is still there, and basically they just park a bunch of storage there. But there's a runway that still exists.
Yeah, I've seen it. You can see it from the monorail. Yeah, like you said. And we should do that someday. We should do Stolport versus the Disneyland helicopter pad.
Oh my God, yeah, totally. One still exists. And then they said, which I have a hard time believing, is they have grooves in the runway that when the airplane lands, it plays When You Wish Upon a Star.
Oh God. Oh,
apparently that's gone now.
Yeah,
I think
they said they got
grooves.
rid of it. I just still have a hard time believing it. Anyway, so that was 2023.
I think that's absolutely true.
I mean, could you hear it over the jets?
I mean, yeah, you're in a plane. You're in a small. It's a small plane, I guess. Yeah. I don't know.
It's a small plane after all. So, do we have time to get into Tiki Room? Do we have time to get into tips and tricks of 2024, Dan? I think it's only appropriate.
Well, I mean, Jason is going, and you did all
That's
that
a good
work.
point. We owe it to
How
him.
much work did you?
Right.
So how much work went into this?
Okay,
I'm gonna
so
have to
Erik
clip
reached
this
out.
part and send it to him separately because he's not going to listen to 2 hours of the show.
That's a good point. So he reached out to me as a concierge, and he said, my family and I are finally going back to Disneyland. They're going in January. I forget the exact dates, but as this comes out, they're probably in Anaheim.
Mm-hmm.
And they're still a little concerned about COVID and sickness, and that's certainly understandable.
Yeah.
So they wanted somewhere that they could stay that they wouldn't be breathing other people's air.
Mm-hmm.
Now they're okay with lobbies because they can, they can wear masks in the lobbies and that kind of thing. So I called, I think, 10 different properties around the resort based on various budgets and that sort of thing. I'd taken several tours of different hotels. I was in Anaheim. And so I took it upon myself to go through some of the other hotels and take some room tours and that sort of thing to find out what would be the safest for their family.
The perfect room for Jason and his family.
For Jason is exactly
Right.
the
Right.
ideal situation.
Okay.
You could stay in a VRBO. Obviously, you're only breathing your own air. So we looked into some of those. There's a Residence Inn across the way. A few others. I went to the Anaheim Hotel, and they do have independent villas there. But I found that at the Anaheim Hotel, the air is independent of the units. So there's a window unit effectively pulling air from outside into each unit. So I found in the several buildings they have, I found the room that would be specifically unique to their family.
So it sounds like you actually put significantly more work into this booking than you do for for most people.
That's fair. He is our parent podcast and all that stuff.
Right.
And the reason we are concierge supported. So anyway, we found it, booked at the Anaheim Hotel. I got a specific room that we isolated for them. And we have the room number specifically, booked the hotel, spoke to the front desk and the management, and they have that flagged for their family. So that's the room they're going to get.
All right.
Yeah. So that's just, would I put that effort into other families? Absolutely. But not every family has the same kind of limitations. So I wanted to make sure that Jason and his family were as comfortable as possible for their trip to Disneyland.
Right.
I was able to get up at 3 a.m. Eastern time in order to get their dining reservations they preferred. We were able to get everything they wanted, which is good. We got, of course, Pirates of the Caribbean Blue Bayou. We also, coincidentally, they also wanted Cafe Orleans. We did that as well. I got the breakfast buffet over at Goofy's and Lamplight Lounge. So we were able to get all the dining reservations they want, which is
Blue Bayou and Lamplight Lounge. I can tell you from experience, those are both very hard to get.
Yeah. So we were able to get those done. Anyway, I'm excited for them, excited for their trip. And, I'll be honest, it was worth it for a happy family who will enjoy their time at Disneyland for the first time in years. I'm excited for them.
Right. A big homecoming.
Yeah.
So
presumably
Jason,
Disneyland is what started this podcast. Their love of Disneyland is what started this podcast.
Oh, that's all. Yeah,
assume.
that's true. That's true.
I mean, their hatred of Disneyland is what continues.
Well, not this podcast. The other one. The other one that I'm on.
Yes. No, but that is a good point. This network wouldn't exist if it weren't for some would say one man's love for another man's vision.
That's right. And his friend Terrence.
Yes, exactly.
No longer on the show. Anyway, so I'm excited for them, and that's it. So Dan, what are some tips and tricks for for Jason?
General things that, because it's been a while, and if you're listening and it's been a while for you, these are just some things that I've observed. Some are insane but true. Some are just kind of not insane,
just like Jason.
True. Yeah, exactly.
Insane but true.
And the idea here is not so much for you to take everything and use it all, but just to hear just some thoughts that you might want to go, oh, well, that's something to keep in mind. Generally, first thing I thought of, Pirates is going to be a Supreme show because they added Lightning Lane to it. Because so
that's official.
That's official. I think it's going to be temporary.
How does that work?
Okay. A couple of ways to think about it is Splash Mountain's closed. So is Haunted Mansion. So you have an entire section of that park with no Lightning Lane offering. So
they need to have a Lightning Lane offering.
There's literally no way to reduce the cost of Lightning Lane to reflect that there are less things on it. Right.
Literally no way.
There's absolutely no way.
Impossible.
The lightning lane for Rancho del Zocalo.
Right. So they are instead saying, well, look, there's one for Pirates. Pirates has famously tried to have a lightning lane or fast pass. And
Yeah, didn't they do like basically either side of that staircase?
they tried to
line?
do a fast pass years ago when fast pass was being aggressively expanded, and I'm almost certain the cast members just took a hammer and broke the machines because it was ruining the ride. Everyone who works in that park, like on the ground, knows you do not put lightning lane on Pirates of the Caribbean. There is no line that thing is hardly ever 40 minutes long. At its most, it consumes people. It is the gold standard of a high capacity ride. It's going to be on Lightning Lane. I do understand why. It's silly, but it kind of, I guess, makes sense that like you can't have like a dark place in the Lightning Lane map. I guess it makes sense, but it's going to turn that part of the park into a very weird fustercluck of congestion and emptiness. Just heads up. General rope drop plan that I've found, get Genie Plus immediately. Grab Lightning Lane for Indiana Jones because it will probably break down. And
Great
if
tip.
It does,
it works every time.
Yeah, and if it does break down, guess what? You won because you get what I call the Martin Shkreli pass. You can look up that name and you'll find that it's hilarious. But basically, you'll get a pass that you can use at any time, and you can keep booking those lightning lanes for the broken ride, and it'll keep giving you those passes. So you grab a thing for Indiana Jones. If it is open, you don't ride it. You switch it to something else that will probably break. Then the frequent breakers are the Matterhorn, Roger Rabbit, and Thunder Mountain.
Rise
These
of the
are
Resistance?
funny tips, but they are true.
Well, you got to pay for Rise of the Resistance.
You can't get Lightning Lane by itself. You have to pay.
You wait for Rise?
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to pay for that.
Okay. So just real quick, you buy Lightning Lane the minute it's available. That is technically midnight the day you're showing up.
That's at Disneyland. You get it.
It's 7 a.m.
Well, when you walk in the park,
Or you can't
you have
buy
to
it until
activate
you
your
walk in.
ticket.
Right. It's
I
different
conflate
than
those two so often.
Disney World. Yeah, it's of
So-
course very, very intuitive, Jimmy.
And the reason you do that is so that you open up that 2-hour window so that you can just keep stacking lightning lanes. By the way, if it's been a while since you've been, go onto YouTube, look up these things: stacking lightning lanes, single rider lines, and virtual queuing. I'm not going to bore you by going into it here, but those are very useful things to know about. But basically, if you just keep shopping for broken rides, don't use any lightning lanes until around 11 and just cruise on the things that don't have lightning lanes. These are things like Pirates, Jungle Cruise, Fantasyland. Anything that you want to see in Fantasyland, make sure you see it before 10:30-ish. Alice is a good one to hit first because the line is going to get longer as the day progresses. And then following that with Snow White. And then after that, Pinocchio, Dumbo, they're kind of... Wait, why do I have Dumbo in here? You can get a short line on Dumbo sometimes in the beginning part of the day, later part of the day as well. If you see Casey Jr. running with 2 trains, hop on it. It's not going to be a long wait. Mr. Toad, there's no line for Mr. Toad that is all that bad. Also early in the day, you can hit the subs. The line for that is pretty short at the beginning of the day. Interesting traffic pattern I've noticed is that the east side of the park, so Tomorrowland, doesn't really get super busy until its ramp up is slower. So you have until about 11, 12, 1 until that hits the peak. The other side of the park is going to get really congested by 10. And that's because everyone goes to Rise of the Resistance or Indiana Jones. By the way,
what about Mickey and Minnie?
Mickey and Minnie, the capacity is so huge, it generally doesn't have an impact.
That line does haul.
Yeah, it's great. Never, ever, ever rope drop. DCA. Also, don't
Like
because
me?
there's not
So I can
much.
have breakfast.
Well, if you're looking at it from that point of view, yeah, it's fine. But if you think about it, if you rope drop DCA to like get the most use of your rope drop attraction time, Guardian's okay, but it's often down. But then there's really nothing else on that side of the park. Radiator Springs, unless you're like the first one in there, it's still going to be a long wait because people are coming at it from all these different angles. And then you're again stuck on this very specific part of the park, which means that your rope drop time gets consumed by a lot of just like needless detail stuff. And often Radiator Springs is down when they first open. Same thing with Rise of the Resistance and Indiana Jones. There's a really, really good chance that they're going to be down when you start rope dropping, which if they are, you're out like you get. So let's say, for example, you rope drop Rise of the Resistance. Okay, great. I'm going to go from Main Street through Frontierland into Galaxy's Edge, and then I discover that it's broken. I then have to go to a whole other part of the park. And then by that time, lines are already forming. You basically don't get a rope drop time unless you don't get a rope drop time unless all of these things line up, it's open, and the crowd doesn't get ahead of you. They are bad bets, is what I'm saying. Mm-hmm. So, and same thing with DCA. If you think about rope dropping it, like where do you go? Everyone's going to this one side of the park. If you go to Soarin', just the loading of it alone is going to eat up 30 minutes of your rope drop day.
Gosh, yeah.
And if you bought Genie Plus, then all those things are going to be available on Genie Plus later in the day.
Absolutely. That's my point, is if you're getting Genie Plus, start with the things. First of all, start in Disneyland and start with, I prefer Pirates. But if your family is into Fantasyland, go to Fantasyland first and just start racking up the lightning lanes to use later. Don't even think about using it until you start feeling the busyness of the park encroach. And then you have all these things lined up, and it's really cool. No such thing as a slow day or time anymore. Mm-hmm. This includes rain. So get rid of those ideas. Wow. They do not exist. In fact, rain is it used to be a great time to go. It's possibly the worst time to go now because it's filled with people who want to use their reservation and are afraid of, changing it or whatever. And they don't know what to do because they're Southern Californians. They don't know how to deal with rain. So,
and famously, less things are open when it rains.
Well, it's slightly less, but yeah, there are less things open. So you just see people like huddling under buildings sadly, and like it's bad. It's bad. People are a mess. I'm not saying don't go. I'm just saying it's not the same at all. Stuff goes down a lot now. And if you see something that has been down, it might be worth hovering. I've learned that for like Rise specifically, if you ask how long it's been down and not when it's going to reopen, and then they say it's been down 45 minutes to an hour, maybe linger a little bit. But yeah, things go down a lot. And new line management procedures on top of everyone being on the app constantly means that a long wait on the app will usually mean a significantly shorter actual wait time by the time you get there. And vice versa, if you see like, Thunder Mountain has a 10-minute wait. By the time you get there, unless you're right there, it's going to be at least a 40-minute wait. So
yeah, that's a good point. Like, the inverse is true.
Right. So it's a good way to see trends, like, okay, well, this is where this is going. And, but if it's basically unreliable. So some upper limits, we were talking about this before. What I've kind of put together is, unless it's a huge crowd day, the lines for most things will get down to around 30 minutes to 45 minutes if you just kind of wait for it. Not everything, but generally speaking, if you see a line longer than these following things, wait. Do not wait in the line. Wait for it to change. And this is assuming that you don't have Genie Plus. So if you see Rise of the Resistance, anything longer than an hour, rather, do not get in that line. It will probably get down to 45 minutes to an hour at some point during the day. Indiana Jones, you can usually see a 40-minute to 50-minute wait top throughout the day. Sorry, it'll get higher, but a good sweet spot that it often settles in is 40 to 50 minutes. However, check the switchback area, because if there's not a lot of people in that switchback area before you actually walk up to the temple itself, there's basically no line, or it's basically a lightning lane, because that's the mix point.
Yeah, because everybody just kind of runs through the building itself these days.
Right. So if you just see, like maybe one switchback or so in that line, and you see like 50-minute wait, not true. Indiana Jones is notoriously inaccurate for the wait times that they post. Peter Pan, always 30 minutes. If it's less, get on it. It's 20 minutes, 29 minutes, you're riding that ride. Space Mountain, 45 minutes is kind of the lower limit that you'll find throughout the day. However, it does have single rider line. Matterhorn is actually popular again, or now, which is a weird thing because it's very unpleasant to a lot of people. But generally, look for 30 to 45 minutes. That's a good settling point that it'll eventually get to. Again, anything more than these times, it's either a super busy day or wait, don't go on it at that time. Thunder Mountain, usually 20 to 30 minutes. Incredicoaster, it dies down. It has real peaks and valleys. So if you see it anything above a half an hour, do not wait in that line. It'll get down to 10 minutes easily.
Oh yeah, and that thing, that's another line that just moves.
Oh yeah, and it also has single rider.
Lightning Lane.
Yeah. Toy Story, 30 to 45 minutes usually is something you can experience throughout the day. Goofy Sky School, again, has single rider, but 25 to 30 minutes, you shouldn't wait in a line longer than that. More line things.
I have to interject.
Yeah.
Listener, Dan is not looking at his phone. He's not looking at a device.
I am.
Off the dome.
Off of the top of his head.
No, wait. Dan, you're not looking at the app, right?
I'm looking at notes that I took.
He's looking at notes. Okay, I just want to point out, as he's been saying these words, I've been on the app, and he is 100% accurate within 5 minutes.
I'm telling you.
Everything he's saying is 100%. And by the way, it's 2:39 Pacific time on Sunday, January 7th. And everything he has said has been accurate, dead on balls accurate within 5 minutes.
No, like I said in our chat, I am glad that I no longer actively engage in this OCD part of my brain when I'm in the parks. I have a lot more fun now when I'm able to just go with the flow. But I think a part of that is that instead of letting this part of my personality that is taking over currently take over those trips, I just kind of like tell it to shut up.
I think my point is rewind 10 minutes and write it all down, because he's nailed your best touring plan.
Thanks for joining us this week, Len Testa.
Exactly.
Other things to keep in mind: Jungle Cruise. If you see a long line for the Jungle Cruise throughout the day, go to Knott's. Or just
for fun.
Yeah.
Just for fun, Dan.
Yeah.
For reference.
Okay. I'm now looking at our screen, not my notes.
Not your
Go
notes.
for it.
Indiana Jones currently is listed at 50 minutes, 50.
Yeah.
What is the Jungle Cruise?
25.
15. So close, but I'm going to stop quizzing you just in case.
No, go. Give me another one.
All right. Haunted Mansion is how long currently? based on what I just said?
30.
Higher.
40?
50. We can cut all this out.
No, this is
Submarine
thrilling.
Voyage is now 10.
Oh, okay. Well, and they have a parade happening. No, they're done with. Are they done with the parade? Anyway, point is, I have these problems. So Jungle Cruise, if the line isn't upstairs, you're good. No matter what the post time is, you're good. If it's not upstairs, you're good. If it's only in like the left half of upstairs, you're good. It doesn't matter what else it says. If you see the entire upstairs full, do something else. Thunder
I find
Mountain.
it fascinating that Jungle Cruise has such a short line. It is generally pretty accessible at Disneyland, and at Walt Disney World, it's always an hour.
Oh yeah. That is so weird. And to me, it's weird in the reverse, where it's like, wait, this is one of your most popular rides. I mean, it's okay. It's a fine ride.
Yeah,
Well, yeah, it's iconic, and it's been there since the park opened, and
more capacity,
there's
too.
never a giant line.
I guess it's a longer ride, technically.
I think it's just where it is geographically.
Yeah, maybe.
Huh.
It's more viewable. I don't know. Thunder Mountain, no matter what the app says, look at the line around the area of Rancho de Zocalo, whatever that place is called. If you see like one switchback or whatever, you're good. If you see more than that, do something else. Let's see some traffic patterns that I've spotted. East side of the park, like I said, is the last to get filled and the last to slow down. Space Mountain single rider line opens around 11:30. Autopia, don't ride it before 10 because they don't have full staffing before then. So you're waiting in literally a twice as long line. Let's see. Everyone goes to Galaxy's Edge or Indiana Jones first. If those are down, they will go either to Thunder Mountain or Pirates. So just be aware of that. Let's see. What else? Indiana Jones Standby makes point. Matterhorn's gotten very popular. Oh, parade and fireworks stuff. So I'm going to give you, listener, mainly Jason, some good places to think about for seeing parades and fireworks. So imagine, if you will, you are walking through, you're walking under the train track into Disneyland, into Main Street. See it, picture it. And on you're walking on your right hand side is the Disneyana shop. On your left hand side, just behind you, is the train station, and right in front of you is Walt's cart. By the way, that spot right there, if you get there 15 minutes before the last parade of the day, you will have no problem seeing it perfectly. And you will not have to fight for any space because there's plenty of space and there's a ton of shade, because it is a walkway up until the very moment that you get there 15 minutes before the parade starts. If you rely on this, you will never have to wait for a parade longer than 15 minutes. It really only works for the last parade of the day because it starts right there on Main Street. So you're seeing it right when it starts. You're good.
Yeah.
And your exit strategy from there, go to California Adventure.
There you go. So
Go.
You missed an important piece. You walk in, you go under the bridge on the right hand side,
right?
Not on the left.
Did I do that again? Yeah, right hand side. Sorry. I get right and left.
You ended up on the right hand side.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
just forgot the piece of going under the bridge on the right.
Right. Okay, good. Right and left are still problematic for me. If you want to see the first parade of the day, this is less reliable and there's less shade, but let's imagine again, dig if you will, a picture. You are walking away from the Fantasyland train station and the bathrooms. You're walking towards It's a Small World. That area between the two toy shops and by It's a Small World, that is kind of a similar thing. It also is a walkway up until the last minute. And if you get there 15 minutes or so before the first parade, same deal. It's just less luxurious because it's gross. There's lots of people. And it's, there's no shade. Fireworks.
Now, is that when you're looking at It's a Small World, are we waiting on the left or are we waiting on the right?
Coming from Toontown.
Coming from Toontown.
Yeah, from that side. So it would be the left hand side of It's a Small World.
If you're looking at It's a Small World on the left,
Yeah.
got it.
Yeah.
Between the two toy shops, you said that.
Right.
And Fantasyland Theater and all that.
Yeah, all that stuff. Fireworks, I've never not done this, and it has worked every time if they have the fireworks. If you get to the spot around Main Street Cinema, between Main Street Cinema and the Crystal Arcade, that area there, get there 10, 15 minutes before the fireworks, you're good. You'll see all the projections, all the fireworks, and you don't have to deal with the insane people that wait in front of the camera.
What about watching the fireworks in front of It's a Small World or on the island, Tom Sawyer's Island?
Those are fine ideas, but for me, I prefer having the full, because they have stuff that goes off on the castle,
right?
So that way you get all the fireworks that happen on the castle, and you get the full picture, the panoramic thing of this relates to all of the things, things that relate to the castle in the show. So that way you get all of that without having to deal with the tomfoolery of the castle people. You can also see the fireworks from Galaxy's Edge. And Galaxy's Edge, by the way, traffic patterns have shown that people tend to go there early, and it gets progressively more ignored starting around 3:00 or so. It ramps down. So if you're just a crowd avoider, then go there at 4. And Toontown, go during a parade, but you're going to have trouble getting out. But as long as you know, and you can arm yourself, whatever.
With a stroller.
Yeah. So those are just general things. I've been very curious about. I think what this comes from is going back after the pandemic, and also going back for the first time as a pass holder when I went back in 2019, I think, or whatever. I felt very ill-equipped to have all of those old tools. And I was like, okay, well, what's current? What do I know now? And now that there's been a couple years of seeing how these things work, these are just some things that I've noticed.
That's awesome. Some of the best advice I think I've heard.
Well, I think
very, very detailed. Yeah, just a
very
quick
well
rundown.
done.
Oh, yeah, that's all. Yeah.
Well, Eric, you'll have to share this segment with Jason so he's well equipped to go with his family.
Yeah, I'll clip it out and send it over to him, and there we go.
All right. Make sure to point it out when you record on Thursday.
Yes. Hey, we recorded a whole thing for you, buddy.
There you go.
And speaking of recording,
difference.
Speaking of recording, there are other shows that are recorded on our network.
Nice.
Wow.
Nice.
Master of the segue.
Nailed it. These shows include PewDiePod, which I still think is about them talking about small things, but I've heard that it is actually about Marvel movies. There's also
box office getting smaller and smaller.
There's also Milk Lemonade, Around the Corner Bounce Milk. You can listen to them from their trailer. There's also a show called Ears Up, featuring a person called Jason, who will be going to Disneyland soon. Hello, Jason. There's also Ears Up In Depth, which I have nothing but good things to say about. We can, if you want to contact us, you can do so. Oh, hey, listen to Bowie Explaining too, by the way.
Scraping the Vault.
Oh, that's Scraping the Vault. Sorry.
Yeah, not on the network, but listen to Bowie Explaining.
Right.
What's the Scraping the Vault January special?
Oh, that's right. We are going to be watching Labyrinth for Scraping the Vault, featuring
Crossover
Erik
event with Bowie Explaining.
Yes.
By the way, has Jason called you? He wants to do a crossover show with Scraping the Vault and Ears Up.
He does?
Really?
Oh, this should be
I can't remember when he scheduled it for, but we were doing the show plan for the year. We did half the year plan on Wednesday or Thursday.
What's that like?
This week?
To have a plan.
It's actually kind of great because I look at it and I go, wow, I don't really have to do a whole lot for this show.
Yeah. Well,
So he told you there's going to be a Scraping the Vault crossover with Ears Up, and we don't know about it?
He hasn't contacted you yet.
No.
Nope.
I
All right,
guess.
great.
all right. Well, we'll cross that
Excellent.
bridge when we get to
A
it.
day at Disneyland. Ooh, Dan. A day at Disneyland. Oh my God. That would be wonderful. That's what I want.
There you go.
If you want to contact us, you can try to email Jimmy at
cannot.
his.
Good luck.
No, what's your concierge?
Jhunt at
email?
concierge.com.
There we go. And Eric, what do you want? What do you want
Eric
people to do?
Pod D, as in Doctorate of Pod, on
Nice.
Instagram.
That's about right.
You can
Used to be Farm D, but
My email address is dan at earsup-podcast.com. I don't check it, so I'm sorry. Just join our
Eric
Facebook group.
D at Instagram. Yeah, Facebook group.
Yeah, our Facebook group. It's the Supreme Resort group on Facebook. That's kind of, truth in advertising. Concierge exists. We talked about that. Anything more about concierge?
I think we nailed it.
Okay,
with
856 our ears.
the work that we put in for Jason.
Yep.
there you go.
And if you would like them to put in work for you, that is the number to call. I said it. Not going to say it again. I'm lying. 856 our ears. And I guess court is adjourned? Question mark?
Nice. Be good to each other.
That too. Fresh baked.
See you in the parks.
See, I used this one because we did the Knott stuff 2 hours ago.
Oh, nice.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah,
Hey,
2
remember
hours
2
ago,
hours ago
indeed.
when we talked about Knott's Berry Farm?
Barely.
My wife texted me and said, "Not rushing you, but when are you done?"
I thought it was great.
This was good.
I thought it was great. I loved it. I'd listen.
And listener, if you want to know what it was like to visit the Disneyland with me, like when I was 16 years old, just take that last bit with me rattling off facts and figures, put it on a loop,
Yeah.
play it while you're in the park. That's what
And
it
then
used to
to
be
follow
like.
the weird guy.